And we are now finally on live in the correct Hangouts on air for those of you who are actually playing along. We apologize for being so late, but it's not as easy as it looks, this whole real-time broadcasting via video thing. So I'm just saying. All right.
It certainly isn't if we use Google, which maybe we'll never do again.
I don't know. I don't actually blame Google. I blame Yosemite, frankly.
I blame Google, and I vote against Google forever.
Okay, well, that's good since that's kind of the topic of today's Hangout anyway. That's probably consistent.
It's just another lie.
It's another lie. Google is your friend. We will do no evil. Let's start there. Okay, so we are joined today by Michelle Chance Thong. Thong. God, I still have an R in there, don't I? Sang Thong. There.
I'm with the Google, and I'm here to help.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
And from now on, we call it Groogle.
Groogle, yes, because of the R in it. Thank you. And so Michelle is, I think, we need to come up with like a great title here, but I mean, she's in charge of coaching our, many of our clients, and so that's a very good thing for them in particular, by the way. Corey, speaking of clients, is off working with other clients, and so he's not actually joining us today. Somebody has to work while we play around with like video technology. Okay, so we have a two-part show today, and it's kind of the Mythbusters edition. We're going to be treating both pay-per-click, AdWords that is, and that's like Dan's realm, because I only know how to spell AdWords, I don't actually know how to use it. In fact, there's a story about that. I was actually banned for repeated, egregious violations of AdWords policies, and I'd never actually run an ad, but there's another story.
Well, that's one of the biggest violations right there, actually, is you're not spending any money.
That must be it. I'm just a cheapskate. I don't know what to say. So, but we're going to actually lead off with another myth, and it's one that we've actually covered before on October 21st. But a good myth, it just keeps on giving. So we'll lead off with that one.
Something up once, sometimes you have to stick with the story.
It can be useful for some people who have a pressure to publish. If you come up with something that it feels good once, keep doing it again. So let me see if I can actually share screen. Now that we've at least gotten to the right Hangout, that's a good start. Let's see, entire screen, share, and then we're going to get the whole multiple mirrors, the bathroom thing. God, I wish they could, really, come on, guys. Surely we can fix that. And then play from start. Okay, now we have to wait a few minutes to figure out if this is actually working, right? That's always the great thing as to whether or not share screen actually works. So I'm just seeing black. Is that what you're seeing?
Yes. Oh, not now.
Okay, great. So now we're actually seeing the title slide. Wow.
Now you got to make yourself the presenter.
Oh, crap, you're right.
With it.
I forgot that part. You're right. It's like the fact that it requires this many button presses. Yeah, I don't even.
Whoa.
I know. Here we go back to that because. So present everyone. Oh, nice. God, that's a great image, isn't it? Oh, God.
To infinity and beyond.
That's the best part of Hangouts, and right there. That's the part. That's the best part.
Because it totally makes sense that nobody would have noticed that happening and done something about it.
You wonder who tests this stuff, right? You gotta wonder.
We do.
Apparently, that's our job. Okay, so
you started on the beta, but you're really on the alpha.
Yeah, no wonder it's in beta so long. Yeah. So here we are, Brain Trust Hangout, December 2nd of the year 2014. Just a very few Hangouts left for us Hangouts. I mean, God knows how many people are doing Hangouts. God bless them. But for us, just a few more left. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to give you an updated Hangout. Now, our first report on this was October 21st, God, I'll get it out, of 2014. And I'll describe why that's important here in just a moment. And this is the lie that will not die. It's the Penguin 3.0, 3.1, and now counting Hangout, despite the fact that, frankly, there was actually no 3x Hangout rollout at all. It was actually a data refresh. We'll get to that in a moment as well. But supposedly, Penguin 3 has already rolled out. Okay.
Well, wait. I heard on the news that it's still rolling out.
Yeah, we've heard that it was rolling out, done rolling out, not rolling out, still rolling
Imminently
out.
about to roll out
Yeah,
before it didn't roll out.
yeah. And oh, by the way, nobody at Google has actually named it 3. So here's where it started, at least for us, when we recorded this on October 21st. And you'll see that this was the Barry Schwartz article about John Mueller said in the video hangout minutes ago, da 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 da, blah 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 blah. That's really great, and so well, first we can throw John Mueller under the bus for being wrong again, but that's okay.
But
fine.
no, but he wasn't though. In terms
Kind
of, you know, what he said was true from a certain point of view.
He said something about Penguin, and then Barry said something about that, and that's the telephone game, and it's
Or the making a crumb into a cookie game.
something
You don't
like
really
that.
end up with a cookie.
Not really. But it turns out there was actually 2 days before that Barry had posted this. And so it's like, I mean, if you're going to make news once, you should make news twice. And so actually he posted on October 18th, and then he posted October 20th, and then he modified 18th with updated and confirmed. Well, confirmed is, it's, you know, you use this word a lot. I do not believe it means what you think it means, as we'll get to in a few more slides.
Yes,
So,
confirmed.
Confirmed means I just reported it more than once. That's actually what confirmed means. So John Mueller updated me on Google Plus saying, I might have spoken a bit early. And of course, John never does that. It looks like things may still be happening. I'll double check in the morning. I think double check might be a lie too. I think that might be the first check, but
Single check.
Single
Yeah.
check, yeah. And so then we find from Dr. Pete Myers, like, huh? What? I don't see nothing going on. Yeah, and you know, Dr. Pete, he's I don't know. We follow him, but I don't. Maybe not a lot of.
You know what Pete does? Pete automatically scrapes a bajillion search results, and so when there's large-scale movement, they do see it. The tricky part is separating it out from all the small-scale movement that always happens every single day anyway.
Well, and that's true. And the other problem that Pete has is he actually has like an evidence-based approach to measuring reality. And, you know, and that's we know that that's kind of in a minority view.
It's not popular anymore.
Not popular, really. And so then, thank you, Dan, for being, you know, an insomniac, because like at 1:39 a.m., I don't know what time zone it was, the only person from Google has actually said shit about Penguin during October. Post this.
I bet a lot of them have said shit.
Well, you're right. Only secretly. So,
yeah.
And so he says, hey, there's a Penguin refresh. Let's be clear here. What's a refresh versus an algorithm update? A refresh is changing the data set. It's not the algorithm. It's not Penguin 3. You know, when you go from 2.1 to 3.0, that's a algorithm change. It's not an update. We don't measure refreshes. We don't number refreshes. So the only person from Google that has ever spoken about the October update has said it was a data refresh, not an algorithm update. Oh well, let's move on. So on our update, so fortunately, we got this late breaking news. Thank you, Dan. Early in the morning on the 21st. And so in our Tuesday hangout that same day, my conclusion was, nothing to see here, folks. Move along. There's no new Penguin. Very, very small impact, less than 1% of queries, according to Google themselves. Well, 2 days later.
But still, I mean, the first time that the data had been updated in a year, as far as we know.
Well, yeah, but it's like, did anyone really notice? And here, sure enough, with statistical numbers. And, you know, Pete's a great guy, and he tries to, you know, play ball here, as we'll show. But here we have the actual Mozcast temps. And he's saying that it's like on a 70, which is par, that day was a 73, which is like nothing. You can see a whole bunch of days that nobody thought was anything at all, which are as high or higher. So apparently nothing really was going on that day. But he does note here, says, my beliefs aside, meaning I don't buy this shit, but moving on. Pierre actually did call it a data refresh, okay, but he admits that it's like, well, refresh versus update. How can we really say exactly what's going on there? So he's trying to be kind to the people who are calling it 3.0. So good for Dr. Pete. I guess he's a gentler soul than I am. But Penguin 3 should have died that day. There was no algorithm update. Let's be clear here. Less than 1% of queries. Dr. Pete couldn't find anything. Nobody from Google said it was an update. Okay, and you know what? The one place where Danny Sullivan actually posted a comment that says, yeah, we verified it, turns out that comment disappeared. So unfortunately, I didn't take a picture of it first. So now what follows next is an example of how urban legends become true. So here we find ourselves on November 27th. And some guy says that while checking my customers' rankings, who know who those are, I noticed a huge pattern of movement in website belonging. This is quantitative stuff. Basically, sites that we were trying to recover from Penguin 3, which also wasn't live anyway to start with. So I can't even parse the first paragraph, which is only 1 sentence long. And just who the hell is Bartosz, whatever? Well, apparently Barry knows him, because Barry used him as his, as far as I can tell in Googling, his sole source for establishing, as we'll find that the industry was all about the update over Thanksgiving. Really, I hadn't really noticed it. None of our clients are reporting it. So, now this is the post on the 28th, and you noticed in Barry fashion, he also established an update, which comes from December 1st. We'll get to that in a moment. But I can't believe what I'm seeing and hearing. A Google Penguin refresh at Thanksgiving, Black Friday weekend, no way. You're right. Barry, we totally agree with you. There's no way. Absolutely no way. And if you hadn't posted the update, we'd be in agreement. Problem is, he posted an update. So here's the update on December 1st, where he reported a lot of buzz and chatter about a possible Thanksgiving, blah, 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 blah. And then he says Google has confirmed that what SEOs and webmasters, well, only one actually, so plural is not really true there, was indeed Penguin related, sort of kind of true, about a Penguin rollout, also kind of sort of true. Penguin 3, not actually true, self-name, and what they told us on the record, wait for it, the Penguin rollout is ongoing, and this is just the effect of it. Wow, that's earth-shattering. Dan, what do you make of that? Just saying. I mean, it's a Penguin rollout.
Yes, they announced back in October that they were rolling out a refresh, and it was going to be a slow, ongoing process. And so this is basically to kind of round off exactly what they said they were going to do.
Yes, and rounding off as opposed to rounding way up, which is unfortunate.
Well, rounding up obviously is helpful if you're,
yeah, if you're trying to actually make news. And so, what Barry reported, of course, on his blog, then was reported on Search Engine Land because, he's one of their editors.
Same thing.
It's the same thing. And so he goes on to report exactly the same thing, which is interesting here. So I love these links. We're always told that you shouldn't be using links in a
But those are authoritative links to proof to back up this story. But
yeah,
really it's just links to other versions of the same story.
Pretty much. So Google has confirmed with us that the results and changes reported goes to the one guy whose name I can't pronounce, throughout the industry. Wait, there was one guy. I cannot find anybody else that reported change.
I'm sure, but a very nice guy.
I'm sure he is. On Thanksgiving Day, which leads to Barry's blog, was a result of Penguin 3, which goes to the October article in Search Engine Land, refresh that first began rolling out 6 weeks ago, which of course was reported one time by one Googler as being a data refresh. Wow. And then later on in the article, I was going to remind you all that that's the only actual report of what was going on by anyone at Google. And then here is the list that occurs later on in the article. And supposedly Penguin 3.0 occurred on October 17th. Wait a minute.
Right, because it wouldn't be as cool to call it Penguin 2.2 because they told us a couple weeks before that Penguin 3 was right around the corner and about to happen. So to be right about that, you have to call this Penguin 3.
Or if you were actually being factual, let's go way out on a limb here and be factual, you'd call it Penguin 2.1R. What? So
Penguin 1 impacts 3% of queries. Penguin 1.1, which is a little bitty tweak, 0.1. 1.2, refresh, 0.3. Penguin 2 impacting 2.3%. Penguin 2.1, refresh, About 1%. Penguin 2. I think it's 2. We'll call it 2.2.
2.2 seems like, from a numerical perspective, as you notice there, statistically, it should be 2.2. You're right.
And so then what's going on now is Penguin 2.2.5 or Penguin 2.3, if we want to call it that.
Yeah.
But the algorithm hasn't changed.
No, and I think what we have here is we have version
updating the same data from the thing that they rolled out a year and a half ago.
Yeah, and unfortunately it's confusing to some of our customers. So, what can we learn here? Well, that's an interesting question.
I think Flavor Flav said it best, Leslie.
What's that?
Don't believe the hype.
Shit doesn't just happen, it's promoted. I mean, the reality is that this didn't happen. People made it happen. You know, they could, Penguin 3.0, whatever, that myth should have died literally 4 days.
Yeah, I'm still waiting to see the flood of posts from consultants claiming that their clients are doing much worse. Because all the ones I've seen are, yeah, boy, my clients are doing way better now.
Well, and actually, and that's the other problem.
I don't want to, say anything about anybody because I know how hard it is to be able to share data, but you got to take that kind of crap with the largest grain of salt you have available.
Well, and that's the other thing, right? And so there's like this whole bunch of things, like other than the guy I can't pronounce, there's a bunch of black hat forums that are saying this and that, something or other else, but then literally their tone changed the day or two after, and that's reported as well. So they're saying a whole bunch of change, and then whoops, it went back to the okay, and we're still reporting this as a 3.
Well, and what are they reporting based on? Freaking analytics data?
I don't even know. They don't want to expose it.
Yeah, because that's like ultra real time.
No, there's that.
It doesn't take 24 hours to assemble in normal circumstances in any way other than that it does.
So here's a takeaway for you from this this little rant. I know it's kind of a tirade, but that's how I am when people actually start reporting stuff that is, not to put too fine a pencil point on it, not true. The signal-to-noise ratio in SEO is at an all-time low. I have never seen so much crap written about so little in so long. It's unbelievable.
Well, every stupid rumor ends up being a 1,000 stories where it's a fact.
Exactly. And this is how urban legends are created. Literally, one guy who doesn't have an audience is followed by one guy who does, and he promotes the hell out of it. About 90%, I figure, and that's rounding off, right? That's about as good a number what Moz uses for their test, certainly way better than what Barry uses for his, is that what you read is simply wrong, and about half of that, here's another made-up statistic, is simply dangerous, right? So the more than half of that you have is dangerous. That's the real problem. What you don't want to do is read something like Barry or Moz or whatever, and track it. If you don't track it back and find that it's from one guy who doesn't actually have any data, right? That's the problem. So here's the thing. I'll leave you with this. Whoops. Oh. Choose wisely, for the true grail gives life. Life, but the false one takes it away. The problem we have with data today is that data is so prevalent. We can search for it. We find, oh, well, there's like 3 or 4 instances of the same story. Just like what we saw with Barry's post on Search Engine Watch, and then repeated almost word for word on Search Engine Land. Oh, wait, there's only one highly non-authoritative source for the entire fabric of that. And
this happens all the time now, and as soon as one of these so-called authoritative sources reports it, every other, scraping, spinning, very nice person, I'm sure, but moron out there goes in and repeats the damn thing, and they add their own embellishments to make it more exciting. It's a damned shame.
It is, and unfortunately, people are, webmasters. I mean, we're in a conundrum. You're in a conundrum. If you're not in the business that Dan and Michelle and Corey and I are in, the problem you have is you have like 2 choices, and neither one of them is necessarily good. You can, on the one hand, do all of the data, do all the study yourself, and good luck running a business and doing that. Or you can hope that the person you're following, the company you're following, is trustworthy enough that they did the research for you. Because, if you follow Barry, you think that Penguin's already rolled out. Well, I got news for you. That just simply is not true. It's not a factually based argument. There's no way it's true. Just look at Google's own numbers, and the one Googler has actually said anything about it, right? And so that's the problem. We're in a so-called trust and recommendation economy. Yeah, good luck with that. Because how do you figure out who to trust? Because the right rail is a good one, and the wrong one will take your life away. So, again, there is something to see here. October 21st, there was nothing. Now, unfortunately, there is something. And what you need to see here is how badly you can go wrong by following the wrong authorities. So, with that,
we really need, Leslie?
What's that?
We really need somebody to just, like publish, say, weekly news updates or something like that and tell people what's bullcrap.
Well, damn it, Dan, that's a fantastic idea. Maybe we should do something about that.
Maybe we should.
Okay, so that was my rant for this Tuesday. I mean, it's kind of crazy. It's one of those things where Dan sent me this news article because Dan's the ones that follows this stuff. Frankly, if I had to follow it, I'd go postal. But yeah, but Dan somehow can follow that stuff.
Because I'm such a speed reader that it takes me about 0.4 seconds to read that thing and say, wait, no, this isn't true. And then I just move on because I don't feel any particular way. Like, you get all emotional and wound up about it. I'm just like, it's like, if you see a lion, go eat a gazelle. It's just like, don't get upset. That's what lions do. You see Barry publish, turn a crumb of a rumor into something to justify some story he screwed up and published 3 weeks ago. That's just Barry being Barry. That's normal. But, yeah, maybe we should do something about it. Maybe.
Yeah, we should. Because, what we found is part of the reason this surfaced, because I asked Dan for what he'd heard about this. So what had happened was one of our clients were helping with penalty recovery and mailed me yesterday and said, hey, and he gave a link to Barry's article. And said, so you had said we need to wait till Penguin 3 rolls out in order to do this next step that we have in our process. And so since Penguin's now rolled out, what should we do? So we had to wait. I must have missed something. So I read the article, and that's when I went, kind of went ballistic and asked Dan what he knew about this. And then we said, okay, yeah, we need to.
What I know is that it's very likely that nothing happened
it's right.
at all.
Yes, and it turns out that stuff happened, but nothing actually important. So anyway, that's what's news in SEO, I guess. Dan, do we want to mention briefly about the whole Cloudflare thing, or is that important enough to really,
Well, it's been it's come up in a bunch of different places, and I checked, and I don't want to name anybody's name, but somebody from a certain cloud service might have told me that we couldn't use them unless we were willing to switch to a www subdomain for the website. And, then, of course, talked to Leslie, and he told me that was insane and impossible. And then, of course, I actually found out the blog post from back in, April on Cloudflare's site, where they in fact explained how they were handling the CNAME flattening to make all of that stuff not necessary. So there's been a lot of talk about www or not, and I guess our recommendation remains you don't need it, so why would you want to have it?
Exactly so, and I think that in terms of cloud and CDNs and all that kind of stuff, there's a lot of detailed infrastructure, and if you don't know how the thing is actually built and put together, which I expect almost nobody does, right? You can be easily led astray by, let's call it, marketing literature.
It sounds important.
Well, it is important.
It's got things I don't understand in it.
Well, that's right, and it is important. Usually, it's just that oftentimes it covers over things that are only specific to that particular implementation or whatever. They're not actually true as a norm, and so this
right. So you can just throw out there and say, well, obviously you're not ranking well. You don't have your silos themed.
Yeah, things like that.
We got to go get our silos themed, but turns out that none of that actually meant anything. It just sounded good.
Yeah, or at least silos, the way they're originally conceptualized, frankly, made actual sense. But it was
How big is your website, though, to do that now, Leslie?
Well, I mean, it was about information architecture. It was not about some
Sure. I mean, it's not specifically harmful if it's useful for people.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like the whole, yes. I mean,
also not something the search engine's measuring the themality of your siloations.
That's true. That's true. Even if those were words, by the way. Yeah. So yeah, it's true.
They are now.
True enough. Yeah, indeed. So I mean, in terms of the cloud computing stuff and all this stuff. I mean, if you have any questions about that, please reach out to us at support@marketingbraintrust.com, because I know that's there's a bunch of stuff out there, just like Penguin 3.0, 3.1. Hell, maybe there will be a 0.07% update next week, and someone will decide to call it Penguin 4.0.
We're not naming names in advance, but we know who it's going to be.
Right. It's to be some BS. Oh, wait, isn't that ironic? Anyway, the point is that if you have any questions about, the only reason anybody knows who Dan and I are is because we've been publishing free content for 14 plus years, right? And so we're very accessible. If you want to know the answer to these questions, it's not like it's going to cost you even a dime. Just send us a frickin' email.
Just X.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so Dan, would you like to continue with your own rant about the many lies, but lies, half-truths, bad defaults?
I kind of had to round up to make one of them into a lie, so yeah. But then on the other hand, I rounded a whole bunch of them down into just one lie, even though it's like an entire complex web of lies.
I mean, but wait, I'm going to take issue with that here. So hang on a second. So if I'm Google and people trust Google because I'm not going to do any evil, but obviously, right? And they wouldn't do any evil. And so
the lie rank is an approximation, Leslie, is what I'm saying.
Well, yes, but still, if Google has something as a default, and that default is dangerous to you, I'm sorry, dear viewing audience, wouldn't you call that kind of a lie by at least omission, if not commission? And oh, by the way,
now we're getting into the difference between a lawyer's ethics and an accountant's ethics, and I think Google's taking more the position of, just don't tell me about the body, and I don't have to tell, then I can pretend that you're innocent. So.
Okay, yeah. Right. Okay, fine. So, Dan.
That's just what my lawyer told me last week. So.
That's true. All right. So, Dan, why don't you tell us about the AdWords?
Okay, here we go.
Truths and defaults.
I just pushed the green button thing to do sharing, not scaring.
Scaring. Well, it starts out as scaring because of the incredible, bathroom mirrors thing.
Okay. So.
And I need to make you presenter.
All we need to know is, will your scaring learn us something? That's all we care about. Dan.
Oh, you'll definitely learn something from this. Almost anything.
I'll learn you. Yeah. Hey, that's me. Okay, so now screen
presentation.
Okay, so it changed the thing because it said now I'm presenting to everyone. Stop. Okay, so I'm going to go to desktop, Skype. No, wait, what? Okay, so I'm going to use desktop then, even though I think that's not the thing. I think I'm going to use that.
Full desktop, yeah, that's the only one that actually works. Yeah.
Okay, start screen share.
Yeah, I love that. God, that's awesome.
Bye, Michelle.
She's like retreating into the distance.
Okay. What about that?
Yeah, it looks good. Except
I'm going to try the slideshow.
Try slideshow. Do that. Oh my God, it worked. I'll inform the press. We'll call this. Wait, we should call this Hangouts on Air 3.0 or 1 or something.
There's an ongoing.
I think we should call it beta.
Hangout refresh. Okay,
or so refresh. Yeah, I don't know. Go ahead.
The 5 lies Google tells you about AdWords.
Okay.
So let's just go right to lie number 1, shall we?
Let's do that.
So this will help people understand exactly what I qualify as a lie from Google. So in the location settings in all of your campaigns, you target geographies. If you're targeting more than one country in a campaign, you'd better have a really good excuse for doing that, because otherwise, what the hell are you thinking? But let's just say that I targeted the United States as a country, and I wanted to advertise to people in the United States because maybe I don't know, maybe I deliver my service or sell my products or whatever in the United States. Maybe I'm in Portland, Oregon, and I'm providing window washing services, which would be weird because it rains every day, but let's say that I did. And so wouldn't I want to advertise to people that were actually in Portland and not people who were in Portland or searching for stuff about Portland or just viewing pages about Portland? So maybe they read the Oregonian newspaper one day and now they're in Portland as far as Google's recommended location setting is concerned. So Google says that's recommended. No. Okay.
Hang on, but so that means but Dan, I mean, I agree with you. That's an incredible lie. But so here, let me work the scenario, right? So if I look up, so I'm going to fly to Portland, which will actually happen. I used to live there. So I'm going to say restaurants in Portland. I look it up because I can't remember the name of Jake's Downtown. Like, that would be an idiot not to remember. So now suddenly I'm interested in Portland?
Well, you know what? That's actually exactly how it works, and of course that might matter, right? So maybe I want to advertise to people that are potentially going to Portland. In that case, I'd want to go after people who are searching for or viewing pages about my targeted location, and then I would want to exclude people that are actually in Portland using an exclusion. And by the way, that's where often you don't have an excluded location, but so that you don't screw it up later on, go ahead and set your exclusion settings to people in my excluded location, just like you set your targeting settings. That's almost always going to be the right choice.
So if I'm a restaurant in Portland, I want to be showing to visitors, so I'm the right guy to show, Jake's.
Well, you certainly want to have a different campaign for people that aren't in Portland but that are searching for or viewing pages about Portland, and then they search for Chinese restaurant in Portland. Hey, yes, I would like to to show those people ads, but and then I would want to exclude the people who are actually there because I want to show those people different ads. But all of those are fine finesses. But basically, the main thing here is that the default here could have somebody who is in India showing ads that are targeted to the United States. And I'm not saying that ever happens.
Ooh, but obviously it does.
You can make that happen if you want it to happen, but make that an explicit decision and not a default, which is a horrible recommendation. And so, lie number one.
But hang on, but so it seems like this also almost hurts the smaller business more than it is a bigger one, because I can make the argument.
Of course it does, Leslie. The bigger businesses have people that they pay to fix this kind of stuff.
Well, no, but that's true. But I was saying the difference between like a restaurant and a dry cleaner. Obviously, if I'm flying into Portland, I'm not going to need a dry cleaner, but I might be interested in a restaurant. But it's like a chain, Target. They don't give a shit, right? But it's like, wow. The smaller company that's really doing local business, this is like damaging as hell to them.
Hello?
Right? Dan?
Hello?
Dan, we can hear you fine.
Okay, because you just suddenly stopped talking, and I thought maybe you had disappeared.
No, I can hear you.
Okay, because I'm looking at obviously a presentation right now instead of your face, which is very disappointing for me. But anyway, so when you're targeting people in a location and you want to target people in a location, then target people in that location. When you're targeting people who are traveling to a location who are in a different location, then you're targeting, we kind of already covered this, but people searching for and reading pages and all that stuff is great if you're trying to get people who are traveling to somewhere, and then you'd want to exclude people in all locations except the location that you expect them to be in, and so not all the defaults are bad necessarily, but this one is just a flat out lie. So, lie number 2, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay, so lie number 2 is ad rotation, and this is again in your campaign settings. This will apply to your entire campaign, and of course all of the ad groups therein contained, or as we like to say, within the campaign. And Google's default setting is optimize for clicks. Show ads expected to provide more clicks. Ideal setting for most advertisers. No.
Well, ideal for Google.
It's hard to imagine an advertiser for whom this would be a good decision. Certainly, when you have enough data, then you might be willing to turn on Conversion Optimizer. And if you're really, really, really lazy and you think you might just never get around to dealing with your ad tests, then the rotate evenly, where it shows your ads more evenly for at least 90 days, then optimizes. At least that's 90 days worth of data rather than starting to switch the distribution and favor one ad after like a click. But in general, the one that is not recommended for most advertisers, and this is one I kind of had to round down to just one lie, because it's really at least a lie and a half and maybe two there. In fact, rotate indefinitely. Show your lower performing ads evenly with higher performing ads. In other words, what this should say is rotate indefinitely. Let me run a damned split test. And Google does not recommend that for most advertisers, and I do not know why, because it is not in Google's interest to be this stupid.
Well, I mean, but optimized for most clicks. I mean, that's clearly self-serving.
But is it? Wouldn't they be better served if advertisers were profitable, Leslie?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like most clicks.
Of course, on the other hand, now they're a publicly traded company, so they can't worry about future results. They only need to worry about what happens in this current quarter, right?
Well,
so, okay, yeah. Optimized for
yeah.
Google. Show ads expected to pay Google more. Ideal for setting for Google. Okay, moving on.
That's what it says.
That's lie number 2. So, the fix is pretty simple. Use the right setting, but understand also that clicks is not your business goal. Your actual goal, if you want to get down to it, is really how much profit can you extract from each search impression that's available to you. But and that, there's actually, we have a few clients now where we're actually managing based on that, which is really cool because we've got enough data to do so. But you want to measure the conversions and the value of your conversions. So if you're a retailer, the transaction sizes matter. How many dollars did I get in, and how much did I spend to get them? But however you're doing it, use equal rotation and manage your ad tests. If most advertisers need this setting because they're not testing, then you're going to be able to win by doing testing. And just as a free little bonus tip, do look out for day of week variations, because you might see that you'll see if you graph out day of week variations in search terms that there might be some search terms that get more volume on the weekends and others that get more volume during the week. The relative strengths of keywords will vary. All kinds of things will vary. But one of the things that will vary a lot is not just the click-through rate of your ads between different days of the week. You might have 2 different ads, or one of them is clicking better than the other on certain days of the week. But you're also very likely to see that some of your ads convert better on different days of the week. And so we've run into this with folks when we're dealing with intake with new clients, where they tell me, Tuesday to Thursday is just terrible for us. Well, okay, that's, you've got 2 ads that are running, and the real problem is that the ad that you let Google kill based on some Google automated optimization, in fact, converts at 19% on Tuesday to Thursday when it should be the only ad that's running. And so that these kinds of variations and stuff like that add up. Now, let's give people some free bonus knowledge, Leslie, because I think it's always important to have the lagniappe,
Well, I think it all is free bonus knowledge, but yeah.
Well, like when you go in and get like a bag of beignets, there's like an extra beignet in there. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's nice. It's
when you get like the 32-ounce frozen daiquiri in the drive-through, and then it turns out that they gave you the 40-ounce cup and filled that up. That's nice.
Or when you somehow in New York actually got a pizza and a large bottle of soda, despite the fact that that's illegal.
Wow. Okay.
Just saying. It's
so
true story.
That's an important development. We'll monitor that as we go here. But the other setting in here for ads is the delivery method, and the standard method. And Google's not exactly lying here, because it's just the default, is to show ads evenly over time. And the purpose of that is so that your ads, if your budget is a little too low, your ads kind of get spaced out, and so that you don't burn through your budget. And then, so like if you were trying to run 24 hours a day, that you haven't burned through your budget at 4 p.m. and your ads don't show all evening. What the real effect is that it slows you down from the first possible impression, and so you're always going to lose a little bit of impression share this way, and the closer you're getting to budget, the more impression share you're going to lose. And so unless you have a reason to be limited by budget, always use accelerated delivery. And if you've got your budget is a problem, it's probably that you need to do some more optimization around what time of day your ads are showing, maybe running the right ads, stuff like that. So it's the correct choice here is almost always accelerated delivery, and that's not the default, but they don't specifically lie about it. I don't see ideal or recommended. It just says standard. And so, yeah, it's not a lie, but worth letting folks know about. That's one that actually I had to round that one off of from calling it a lie to not being a lie.
Misleading. Yeah.
And so let's talk about display advertising, which is one that I added in because I had to lose a lie, and it's really, there's no one specific lie, but just a general warning to folks: if you are running display advertising, whether it's interest targeting, let Google figure it out, keyword targeting, whatever it is, even remarketing campaigns and stuff like that. There's really a lot more going on there, and it's really hard for kind of an individual part-time to figure this stuff out and do it. In fact, I wouldn't recommend that you try much more than basic retargeting with a little bit of behavioral overlay. But if you didn't understand what I just said, also don't try. But the display advertising network is just, it's a ridiculous amount of low-quality inventory combined with a little bit of good inventory. And Google's interest very much lies in making sure that they don't tell you anything that would stop you from letting your ads show in the bad inventory. So, for example, if you don't stop them and you run an interest-based display ad campaign, you will find out that a lot of your clicks come from Android apps. And so really, literally, no matter what interest you target, if you don't stop them, there are click farms out there and made-for AdSense sites and all kinds of crazy screw stuff out there. If you don't segment your audience by demographics and stuff like that, you're going to end up with worse results. If you don't add interests to your advertising, even remarketing, by the way. So if I were remarketing for, say, a car dealership, it's nice to think that I'll be there everywhere they want to go. But what you really want to do is you probably don't need to have your car ad showing on a site about cooking, for example, and right, that's going to reduce the potential reach of your campaign. But what you're after is quality reach and higher frequency in those quality reach contexts. So I would probably add, say, cars as an interest. I'm sure that's not exactly what it's called, but something like that as an interest, so that my ads are showing to people for my car dealership when they're on something that's remotely related to cars. And believe me, Google will stretch it as far as they can to make remotely related things match in order to be able to show your ads.
Okay, all right. I'll be off in about 20 minutes. Okay.
Did you need to mute yourself or anything, Leslie?
Yeah, I did mute myself, didn't
I? Almost. Only off by one. So,
God, no, the mute button doesn't work. Add that to the list of technical issues. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
All right. Sorry. Go ahead.
Basically, Google, a lot of the time, and here's where I start to call it a lie, is when you start to do smart things, Google starts to warn you that what you're doing is going to cost you clicks and that it's not recommended. That means you're on the right track most of the time. With this one, it's kind of hard to give you kind of the bullet point of how to fix it. I think really, if you're going to go into it deep, get help, get professional help, find somebody that knows what the heck they're doing with it, and let them have a small budget to test with and prove it before you give them a big budget to roll out and burn.
Yeah. Wow. That's funny.
Because this is right. This is where Google grows from. Right? Search doesn't grow. There isn't more search happening all the time for Google to continue to grow search inventory. They've got to grow their ad inventory in other places. That's why you saw them buying, television, radio, weird ad plays and stuff like that turned into nothing. They'll stop at nothing to increase inventory. Even tell you that plus ones might be a ranking signal so they get more people on Google Plus. But anyway, I digress. My number 3.
Yes.
Here's my favorite lie that Google tells you, and I almost wanted to lead off with this one, but it's such a sexy lie that I thought maybe it'd be a good one to kind of get closer to the end here. But the big lie that Google tells, and this is the one that so many agencies repeat over and over and over again, and I've gotten into so many fights with so many people that probably aren't my friends anymore over this because they're out there saying, well, your conversion rate doesn't vary by position. Yes, it does. Look at your damn data. If you have one retailer client, you can already prove to yourself that that's not true because retailers, we see it over and over again. I've never seen a case where it's not the case. When you're selling to consumers, people whip their wallet out, they type in a search, and they buy from the first one that satisfies them. They don't go on and click the 7th, 8th, and 9th ads and buy from them too. And the people that are clicking on stuff down that far down the page are, well, they didn't have their wallet out. They're in a research stage. And so, come on, give me a break. But the same thing applies with lead generation businesses. And I'm not saying that you necessarily always bid whatever it costs to be number one on the page, but you want to be as high up on the page as you can afford to be economically. And with lead generation businesses, when you actually start to measure using stuff like Salesforce or whatever, you're going to find out that the quality of the leads, what they actually turn into down the road, is better the higher you are up the page in almost every market. And so, big lie, and well, here's a big chart of some truth. And this is just one client where we got in and just little bump to prove the case, said, okay, go ahead and bid more, and boom, 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 boom. Average position goes up a couple spots, and the conversion rate goes up from, just around 6% to just shy of 13%. So practically doubling by moving up basically one spot in the auction.
And Dan,
I'm just saying.
This is one in particular, but I think there's another one that you didn't actually.
Yeah, Leslie. I mean, I've got hundreds of these by now.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, it's like there was another one we talked about just last week. It's a fairly new client where I think what you said it was like 50% increase in revenue and a 30% increase in spend or something like that. Wasn't that the one?
I don't know what you're talking about because that was a week ago, Leslie, and I erased and reboot.
You got to reuse those brain cells. I get it.
Part of my cleanup process on Sundays.
Yeah, all right, good.
Just put on the gravity boots, hang upside down for an hour, and
fair enough.
Drink a lot of beer.
That's that rinse and repeat stuff, right?
Rinse and repeat.
Yeah. By the way, another myth is that you can't drink beer standing on your head. That's absolutely not true. You actually swallow with muscles in your throat.
Yeah,
so go ahead, Leslie.
Yeah, I've done that.
Dares you to drink a beer standing on your head, go ahead and do it, and just make sure you post that to Facebook.
I've done it. Facebook didn't exist when I did it, but sure. Putting on.
And so, we've got a little bit of free bonus knowledge because you can actually see, even on just a rudimentary basis, the difference in position by using a top versus side segment. And so in any report in AdWords, there's going to be actually any report in AdWords except under the Dimensions tab, there will be a segments menu that you can use to drop down. And so show me the difference between this keyword and that keyword in terms of different days of the week, different times of the day. And my favorite in this context is top versus side. So you can actually see not just the click-through performance, but conversion performance and anything else that you've got data for in AdWords. You can see the difference in performance between when your ads are on the top of the page and when your ads are on the side of the page. And most folks are going to see a better conversion rate on the top, although you may not have enough, enough data in either one to tell you very much statistically speaking. This is also how you can look at the performance of say Search Partners Network or not. If you've turned it on to see how it goes, that's how you're going to want to go in and find out is it actually working or are they just ripping you off. Not delivering quality traffic and a ridiculously large number of clicks, considering that their market share is less than a fraction of Google's, and somehow you're getting more clicks from there. Anyway, and also device type. You can look at desktop, tablet-sized browsers and phone-type browsers and see what the differences in performance are there, to tell you whether you want to try a bid adjustment and just bid lower and see how that goes, and just pay less for traffic that isn't converting as well. Or if you want to actually just not, try not to bid on that particular device type, which I don't want to get down the rabbit hole of how screwed up that whole thing is. We don't have the control we should have over that, which we used to have, so don't give me some story that you don't know how to implement at Google, you lying bastards. Okay.
Right. Not to put too fine a point on it.
Well, I'm just saying. But also, folks, in AdWords, every campaign, every ad group has a Dimensions tab that you could be looking at. When you go and click into that, the dimension you see will be one of those boring ones, like it'll just like a list of days and all the performance. But go ahead and go into that menu and notice that you can actually see geography, destination URLs, so your landing page URLs, you can figure out which ones are doing better overall and stuff like that, which ones are getting more clicks and maybe not hitting quite the same benchmark in conversion, so that's one that you can focus on. How can I make this landing page perform better? Well, I don't know. Let me look at that with my search terms list and see which search terms are actually driving traffic to this page, so I can figure out, should I Maybe you have a different variation for different search terms. It's a deep rabbit hole, and if you don't have the time to keep up with it yourself, you can certainly hire people to help you. You can certainly get in touch with me if you're interested in talking about that. But there's a lot more in there that you're not looking at, and when you start to see that, gosh, everything west of the Mississippi I'm losing money on, then focus on the East Coast and make your money. Don't try and force things to work that aren't working, because you can always come back and try and figure out what was wrong and how to make them better. But almost every AdWords campaign I've ever walked into had hidden pockets of profitability, even if the campaign overall was a loser. And this is how you can kind of go in and figure out, it's not just the pockets of profitability. Where am I wasting money? Well, okay, people don't convert on phones. Fine. Maybe I should get better on phones someday, but for now, let me stop advertising on phones. Okay.
Indeed.
And the last thing, I've seen so many different campaign structures that people set up that, and Michelle's been dealing with this same thing because she's working in these with me now. But you go in and there's no rhyme or reason to how campaigns get put together. You don't need a separate campaign for every product that you sell or every intent that you have. That most of the time can fit into an ad group. But what you should always have is a recognition that if you've got a budget, and you've got a bunch of stuff in a campaign, what doesn't turn you a profit, what gets clicks and loses money, also eats up budget and keeps your other stuff from getting as much budget. And so I highly recommend, if you don't do anything else, have at least 2 campaigns. Have one that's your production campaign where you're confident about what you're running in there, and so you're not really trying to limit the budget because it's making a profit. And then have a testing campaign where you can decide how much money am I going to invest in testing, and then decide what am I going to test. Do that intentionally. Don't throw 6,000 keywords into your account and think you're going to spend $500 a month and test anything. You're going to get no results of any kind. So pick what you're going to test, focus in, test, find out how does this keyword with this landing page with this ad work? Does it work? Okay, what didn't work? Can I fix it? And lastly, with shopping campaigns, we do recommend, once you've got enough data to actually make it useful, using at least a production campaign and a testing campaign, and you can actually adjust the priority level on a shopping campaign, so you can have your production campaign at a high priority so that it doesn't take any impressions, or that your lower volume testing campaign doesn't take any impressions or budget away from you, or sorry, any impressions away from your high budget high priority campaign. Yeah.
Dan, I have a question about that. And so in terms of having 2 campaigns, so obviously within a particular, within your production campaign, you want to be doing testing, at the ad level, right?
Sure, you're going to test ads and ad groups, and you might even if you're willing to throw a keyword in and want it to go full blast, you might have something that's in there that you're not entirely confident about, but you really should recognize that there's a difference between stuff I expect to make money with and stuff that I'm trying to figure out how to make money with.
Right.
And I like to dedicate a budget to figuring out how to make money, and have a different budget that's dedicated to making money, because the budget that's dedicated to making money is basically how much profit will they let me buy, right?
Right. And so it's the other campaign, it's your testing campaign is more exploratory.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have clients right now that are they're brand new. They've got minimal budget, and so essentially all we're running is testing at this point, trying to find some profitable channel. And if they had $1,000 a day to spend, I'd fire up a whole bunch of stuff and run a bunch of tests. But they've got a low budget, and so we're running one test at a time. We're taking what we can learn from that, putting it into the next test, and we run a few rounds of tests and find something profitable, and then we're happy, and then we've got a production campaign.
It's interesting, because that actually matches, in terms of where you should, what's the ratio between production and testing, matches basically portfolio theory in terms of investing. So you ought to have, if you want to discover the new things, the things that you don't know are going to work or not, you need to have that testing campaign. But obviously you want to balance how much money you can spend over there versus optimizing what already works. So that seems like, there's no bright line in something like that. And everybody.
Yeah, it's really all about how much can I afford to lose potentially, and how aggressive do I want to be with that? How aggressively do I want to reinvest my profits in trying to find new sources of profit?
Interesting. Yeah.
Well, and Dan, I want to toss something in there too. And one of the things you said, since I know you guys are all the zeros and ones, but from a business standpoint, I love that you said be intentional, because a lot of people say, I have $500 a month to spend, let's just spend that, right? And they just think they just need to get as much as they can in for that $500 instead of trying to pare that down to maybe $300 on this specific kind of a situation, as opposed to all of it everywhere, shotgun, mud on the wall.
Yeah, exactly. And with $500, depending on what what are the bids look like on the keywords, you might be talking about, I'm going to test one keyword for a week during very carefully chosen times of day and days of the week and stuff like that. See how that goes, make adjustments, and then run the next test, right? Because that's not, we talk about launching $1 million stores and stuff like that, but we didn't do that with a $500 budget. We did that with a $5,000 budget, and we didn't manage to actually spend it all until we got profitable. But still, right? It's you have to recognize how much budget you've got to put into testing.
Right. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I just wanted to kind of come back on that, because I think people, maybe somebody who watches the video later, people who are new at this, kind of forget this idea that it's not everything all at once.
Prioritize
right.
through
everything all at once is the opposite of focus.
Yeah, the opposite. Yeah. In fact, Rich Sheffrin, I swear to God, Rich Sheffrin told me this, but he said he didn't remember telling me, but he says what I remember him telling me, and I must have got it from somebody else, according to him, but it's like focus is the art of killing. In order to focus, you have to kill something else. And so it's not, I have to spend this much money, I have to do this thing, and now how much does that cost, and now what else am I not going to do, right? Focus is the art of killing. So anyway, moving on, Dan. Sorry. Little
all right, so now that Leslie's trying to turn us all into murderers, I got to wrap this up. And so if you've got more questions, or you want to talk to us about, can we help you with your AdWords, it's Dan plus PPC at marketersbraintrust.com. You can find me on Skype. I'm the one with the picture that looks like Lego Dan. It's Dan.thies. I'm also the one in Frisco, Texas, and in spite of telling people all these things, I guarantee you someone will be confused and try to make contact with some other Dan Thies, because there's like 3 of them, and of course none of them are as cool as I am, but one of them is definitely better looking. So good hunting, everybody.
Yeah, that's
this concludes my formal presentation.
Yeah, so go back to FaceTime, and let's see, let me fix the Google Hangout / whatever the hell we're talking about here. So first of all, we tried to make that presentation last week and had lots of technical issues associated with bandwidth and other things like that, and so I'm glad that we actually got it done this time, because I think that's, and of course I'm the SEO guy, I mean Dan is too, but I mean he actually knows AdWords deeper than anybody else in our company. And right now we've got, if you actually look at our client base, it's about half and half, in terms of paid advertising and organic advertising.
But the AdWords clients are better looking.
I'm sure that's true, because they all look exactly like you, except, well, now that you no longer have a ponytail. And so that's fantastic, of course. But a couple of things that intrigue me about advertising, this gets into Michelle's comment about the zeros and ones. You guys are all about the zeros and ones. Well, you're right. And so, like, back in the day...
That was a compliment. That wasn't... Don't be offended.
No, I'm not.
I'm really just...
So it's like... It's in investing, it's called being a quant.
Yes.
It's the people who end up doing these real-time trading programs where they're trying to shave a millisecond off a decision in some Java program on a high-end workstation so they can make a penny on some arbitrage. And back in the days.
A million times.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's in one day. And that's the kind of person I was when I was trading, and it's just, it's the same view that I have of search. And it's the thing that Dan really brings to PPC, is that when...
Well, I think it's the direction that, whether you talk about PPC or whatever else, right? I mean, the story is always going to be that the advertisers get the new toys and the new tools and the new APIs first. And either somebody helps, sort of bring those processes and those advantages down to the lower spending end of the market, or nobody does. I don't see anybody trying too hard to do that, and so we're trying to do that. But also, I think, whether you're talking about AdWords or Facebook or whatever else, right? The better we get at managing the data and doing that quantitative analysis, the better we're going to be able to do. I mean, I've gone into some exceptionally well managed, based on kind of the traditional model AdWords accounts, and found 8, 10, 12% in better performance that we can get just by looking at their historical data and saying, hey, this ad that you're running a fraction of the time would actually make Tuesday to Thursday not your worst days of the week, your best days of the week. And it's not that they weren't making money, and it's not that they weren't dominating their market and sitting at the top of almost every search result page they were looking at, but there's still much more that you can do. And so, I don't think it's just the ones and the zeros. I like to use that base 10 numbering thing that they invented back in the day. But
more than binary, huh?
Yeah, more than binary. But that's really the point. I mean, ultimately, business is about the numbers, and so that's what
even our binary decisions are we're only 95% confident that it's a 1.
Well, there's
Absolutely. That. Absolutely. Well, I guess what I meant by that though is that and maybe I do bring sort of the heaven forbid the feminine mystique to this, but this
we're going to call it grown up.
Yeah, but there is something about understanding conceptually that it is absolutely about the profits, don't misunderstand, but about understanding your business, that you're investing intentionally, and that there is some plan here. It's not just here's $500, put it all in this bucket.
Yeah, Michelle.
You see people do that, and those are the people that say, "Well, I tried AdWords and it didn't work."
Right, exactly.
Which means I took Google's keyword recommendations, which is like the biggest lie in the history of lying, almost, at least in a business context. I mean, worse than Enron for sure. But I threw $500 into AdWords and it didn't work, or I threw $500 into Facebook and it didn't work. But
exactly.
What was the plan? Did you design the funnel all the way through? Did you decide how much I'm going to test? What am I going to do with this data? How am I going to adjust? Having a plan, and I don't know, maybe even having somebody help you work on the plan might help. But yeah, Michelle, it's the more we can act with intent and then react based on what happens, the better we're going to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think you have to defend the difference between zeros and ones in the business view. I think those are the same. And so let's see. There was one question that Terry had that we kind of skipped over because we started diving into the PPC stuff, and I asked him about this, and he said it was actually about Penguin. So I'll read that through, and then we'll kind of close up. So from the point of view of a simple practitioner, whatever simple practitioner means in the current web, by the way, Terry, I think we're well beyond the simple days, and not an infrastructure student. Does this fall in the category of who cares, or do we need to pay attention, the actual implication of things that have changed? Well, okay, so here's the thing. I think what you really need to do is to not pay so much attention to the noise in the marketplace. That's the thing I was trying to get to. It's like, it's the right grill and the wrong grill. And you have two choices there. And Terry, you've been a follower of ours for a long time. I don't think it's a question for you. I think you already know the answer. I mean, it's the reason you're on this webinar with us. I'm sorry, it's not a webinar, it's a Hangout, pardon me. And so you're already in the right place, if I may be so arrogant and bold as to say you already have hooked yourself to someone that you, obviously, if you've been with us this long, you already trust us. And so, Dan is the one who kind of, follows what I would call the BS in the marketplace or the webosphere. When there's something that surfaces like, the thing with CNAMEs for Cloudflare or whatever, he reaches out to me when he feels it necessary in order to vet it. But I mean, the reality is that there's so much noise out there. It's about 9 out of 10, I figure, is something you could just ignore, not to your peril. And that's the key. Is you have to. If you spend so much time reading, all you're going to do is confuse yourself and not work on your business. And so to your question, well, yeah, in some sense, it's what we said on October 21st. There's nothing to see here. Move on. Right?
Well, let's just say Penguin 4, because we'll just let it. We're going to go ahead and let them have that. This is 3, even though it's not. Okay, we'll call the Penguin 3. We'll call it Penguin 4, and it gets like it's like 30% more free, right? But let's say that happens tomorrow. Unless there's some change in what they're trying to accomplish, I don't know why that changes your strategy any. Unless there's some change in the mechanics that you need to be aware of, I don't know how that changes your strategy any. And I don't know how that, if it doesn't change your strategy, I don't know how it would change what you're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Well, yeah, and so I think implicit in Dan's answer there is that you're doing what we've been teaching, and actually, to be fair, Dan's been teaching since 2009.
I hope that's a safe assumption. If not, that'd be a better starting point than trying to worry about whether your blog network is going to get caught up in the new Penguin.
Exactly, and that's the thing. So the extent to which we have been teaching the same stuff for many years. We have noticed, oh, by the way, given that we have 36 penalty clients, many of those people have been studying us for a long time. They haven't actually been totally.
It worked even better when I added blog networks to it.
Yeah, exactly. That content marketing with paid link networks is great, right? Okay, and so in general, if you're doing what is really the core of Link Liberation 3. You can just hang up the phone on all that bullshit that's going on in the webosphere. It doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is that what Dan was teaching in 2008, 2009, Google said what was required, and they've only recently decided that it's required, right? They've only enforced it recently. They've always said it was what they wanted, but they've only enforced it recently. So if you're doing content marketing, you're not doing link building, you're not doing all this other crap, right? You don't have anything to worry about. You don't even have to follow search. Ignore.
Well, the biggest difference with content marketing is because of the rampant abuse of a lot of channels and what are really good marketing opportunities. Guest blogging is a good marketing opportunity if you focus on delivering high quality content to a relevant audience where they live.
And don't use keyword anchor text. That's the problem. And I see this in looking through our penalty client stuff and doing their on-site analysis and their off-site stuff. Because that bubbles up to me from our team. What happens is I see, well, yes, that's a great place to put a guest blog, but no, you cannot have 3 keyword anchor text links in the body of the post. I'm sorry. And in the bio you can have one URL link, but no, you can't have embedded anchor text links. And so there are things like that where it's what do you mean by guest posting? Right? It's the same reason we do not use the word curation in our approach. We use abstracts, we use commentary, we use hero posts. We have a gradation of different kinds of content. We don't use the word curation because what some people mean curation is auto-blogging. It's no, that's not what we mean. Same thing with guest blogging. What do we mean by guest blogging? Guest blogging is fine, but if you put keyword anchor text in the body, as opposed to a URL link in the bio, real different sort of results you're going to expect from Google. So, Terry, the short answer to your question is, if you're actually doing what we've been teaching for years and you've been with us for years, you can just not pay attention to any of that penguin shit. Bottom line. Now, for the rest of you, maybe you should be concerned. Just saying. So we have a couple other questions. These are PPC questions, I think, from Walt. If it does not affect me or my customers, why should I pay attention to any of this anyway, which I don't? Well, Terry, I think I answered that. When you are running a test on something new and you're getting 0 positive results, how long do you let it go before you stop the test? Walt, statistics are a bitch, okay? And so there's set of equations for this. I learned it from Andy Edmonds, by the way. And so, been meaning to make a slide rule for this. There are some things that are close. And so there's no simple answer. I mean, well, there is. It's simple, not easy, or is it easy, not simple? I'm not sure.
If there's a particular result that you need to get and it's statistically impossible for you to get that result at this point, then end the test.
Well, yeah, but that kind of sizes up this question. So, for example, let's say that you have to get at least some conversions where you have no data at all. So, seriously, if you're running a test and you've got 0 conversions on both A and B, obviously you have no data. You have 1 conversion on A and no conversion on B. Depending on how many impressions you have, you might have a result. And it's that equation, and I cannot answer that off the cuff. I don't have that in front of me. But yes, there is a way to determine that. But it's about the statistics, about the gap between how good one is versus the other, and how many impressions you have versus the other. That's the thing, and there's an equation for doing that analysis, and I can't tell you that off the cuff. Well, we should actually put that together, by the way. That'd be a great lead item. We need to get that out on the blog. And that's all the question. We have one about SEO and one about PPC. I think I answered all the questions.
So can I ask one more question?
Absolutely, Michelle. You always can do that.
Thank you. I love it. Thanks. So Dan, this question goes to Dan.
This goes to Dan.
I like that. In testing for AdWords, right? So we've talked about slicing and dicing and day of week and stuff like that. If you've been running analytics for a long time and you can see some clear patterns, would you begin adjusting your data right away to the patterns you see in analytics, or would you wait and test in AdWords before you made those kinds of adjustments?
Well, so testing is about, you've got a hypothesis and then you run a test.
Right.
And so, if I see a pattern that I measured in analytics based on AdWords traffic, and I want to go use analytics to make decisions on what I'm going to run over there, that's really a matter of, it should be the same data anyway. If you're importing, conversions and stuff like that from analytics to AdWords, but if you're just starting out with an AdWords campaign and you've got data and analytics that tells you that maybe this is a good search term or that's a bad day of the week, you might as well start testing with the day that you think is the most likely to be good, and then validate whether that's true or not. And that's obviously if you got more budget, you can get answers faster because you can test full blast. But if you're trying to test under a limited budget, then yeah, line up what you think is the best shot and try and hit it. Perfect.
That's what I suspected, but I wanted to hear your very professional take on it, sir.
It's interesting. I really love the Dan Thies Dr. Strangelove black and white film noir look. That's cool.
I don't know what. I'd like to keep this like this, though. It's kind of cool because it looks like you're a spaceman from the future.
I'm time traveling with somebody.
Time traveling. Well, see, no, I mean, I already admitted this to Leslie, but I screwed up and I forgot to pay my color bill this month. So once I get the guy's got to come out with the truck and get into the house and turn the color back on, but then we should be good.
Yeah, because right now you're limited to like 16, and the rest of us.
Yeah, it's just the government mandated free 16 shades of gray that that every citizen is entitled to at birth.
Exactly. Free cell phones, 16 shades of gray. It's the way it is. Or
it's
it could
Obama
be.
color. Wait,
or it could very actually be given our experience last week on the failed Hangout, which we'll delete, so nobody will actually be able to determine.
It's gone already, Leslie.
Oh, good. Thank you, Michelle.
This is way better than that. I would call this an upgrade.
But absolutely, because we can actually understand your words. But I mean, so this seems to be like the low bandwidth, the low bandwidth. I can't even say it. Low bandwidth band. So that's good. Awesome. Let's see. What is this? Oh yes. Wow. How much do they hit you up each month for color? Walt wants to know what his color bill will be, because apparently.
Well, it depends on how much saturation you use. So And we kind of go like if I just like turn the color stat down to like pastel, it's only like $250 a month. But it's a big house, and so coloring everything like with full rich color, you're talking about $1,000 a month color bill easily.
Yeah, so be careful of your color choices in the room.
Why I recommend anyone live in a trailer if you can.
Absolutely, because blank white walls like you have right here,
doesn't run your color bill up hardly any.
Right. Yeah. So Walt, that's an important tip there for saving money on your broadcasting, because we're all about that.
Michelle's crying because she just figured out how much that shirt's going to cost her on her bill this month.
I mean, that shirt's that's an $800 shirt easy.
But I had to go away from the blue glasses back to black, so at least I got one shade out of there.
Yeah, that's good. That's sharp.
We've definitely degenerated beyond lies, and now we've covered SEO lies, PPC lies, and apparently SEO, clothing, internet bandwidth lies, which we made up. So that's good. That's a bonus.
We should just make every week's Hangout about lies and see how many we can make up.
Well, that's a good segue into what we're going to talk about next week.
Well, we can talk about it next week then.
Yeah, so let's see. Next week is going to be, let's see, maybe a little bit too early about planning for the new year. Let's see.
I think we should talk about statistics and R's and stuff like that.
Okay, now that is actually a good point. So
I can wear a pirate hat to talk about R.
R, exactly R. I'm not sure how you wear a sigma, but whatever. And so, all right. So yeah, that's a good point. We need to talk about the actual arithmetic of measurement and tracking. Yeah, decision making using numbers. Ooh, that looks like a headline. What do you think?
Hopefully Janet's writing that down.
Is that a presentation you're going to work on, Leslie?
I'm the math guy, right?
Yeah, so I think that's a great topic for next week.
Yeah, because
based on numbers.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll have Michelle's full support.
Exactly.
I'm all about the ones and zeros, guys, particularly when there's dollar signs in the front.
You know, I really loved hexadecimal because it's more compact. But sure, you know, what, FF4A. So, all right, so next week is going to be about, and let's, because statistics is a big field, let's keep it down to, actually, you know, how about, let's do this. Let's say A/B test decision making.
There you go.
A/B test decision making. We've got a title. And yes, I will put together at least the core presentation, and Dan, not to get off the hook totally, will put together.
I'm sure you'll be getting data from me.
I was about to say, we're going to put together a case study or two.
Probably want a couple of numbers from me, or so. I'm not statistically confident but okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, but you do look like the guy in a black and white movie. So.
Now he kind of looks like Steve Jobs with a.
I was thinking more about, have you ever heard about the fluoridation of water? Anyway, sorry. Just like riding a bomb down.
They're trying to compromise the purity of our bodily fluids.
Yeah. So, all right. So next week is about the statistics of how to, and this answers, whose question was it? Terry or Walt? Was Terry's or Walt questions? It was Terry or Walt asked the question about that. Like, how do you know when you're done? Right? How do you know when we can use side? And so yes, that is an arithmetic thing. It's ugly arithmetic, unfortunately. There are 4 numbers you have to know. And so we'll cover that next time. It might actually be a chalk talk, but we'll also have prepared slides. And Dan will provide some real case studies. Okay. Yeah, so we'll talk about the.
Right, because you won't actually be talking about how to make money with math. You'll just be talking about the boring math part.
Well, there's that. I mean, yeah.
Right.
You know,
so I get to be the sexy one, like I always am.
Yeah, because your eyeglasses on your forehead, which is obviously sexy. So yeah, that's our subject for next week.
Well, if I really did have 4 eyes, that's the ones that would need correction. So.
There's that, because yeah, there's only skin there. So yeah, great. I mean that's one of those things. By the way, I mean it's almost a superpower when you can figure out when you know that you have reached a decision point. That's fantastic. Because most people they don't know how to do it, as our questioner said, or they do it too early. It's like,
and there's also a little bit of leeway there in deciding how confident you need to be to make a decision, because
yes.
If I'm dealing with a large account with large numbers, and there's a lot of stuff flowing around, I want to have a fairly high confidence, probably in excess of 95%, before I say done on a test. On the other hand, if I'm burning through tests trying to find something that's a clear winner, something that I'm only 80% confident about might be acceptable in that case, because really, I mean, if as soon as you start flipping coins, if you can just weight tails a little bit better than heads, it's a matter of doing it fast enough and often enough to come out a winner in the end.
Indeed, yeah. And
some tests you need to get right more than others, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and you have to understand the nature of what you're testing too. To David's point in chat and splittester.com, it does have the formula over there. You just have to understand how do you actually kind of use it, when do you apply it, and how do you apply it. It's this usual story of a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous, potentially.
Yeah, and add in a dollars column to that, and I'm not sure that I'm using split tester anymore.
Well, that's true. Good point. So, all right. So I think we're a wrap for today. So we've covered one significant myth that's kind of ongoing, won't seem to die, concerning SEO.
Which is that you should read Search Engine Land.
That's the myth. Or Search Engine Watch, even worse. So, did I say that? Anyway,
not out loud, so don't worry about that.
No, it's only recorded.
Broadcasted or anything, don't worry.
No, it's not a public hangout. Anyway, so and there's that, and then there's several things, lies and variations of the truth, that Google's told, and then we kibitz for a while with other things. And next week, please join us for what we all consider the real important thing about building a business, that is understanding the friggin' math. And so if there's anything that will make you more money than math, well, yeah, there are a couple things, maybe. But the point is, you got to get the math right. If you don't get the math right, it's not gonna happen for you.
It's really either math or some supply of free energy.
Free energy, maybe that. Divine intervention or math. Take your pick.
I'll go with math on that one. I don't think my odds of the other one happening are very good.
Probably not. Me neither,
for sure. Million, Alex.
Yes, and that is true.
It costs too much.
And
okay.
Michelle, that the color intensity of that shirt, I'm just saying, it's driving up the cost of our hangouts. Yeah. Really.
It's just three colors.
Google charges by the chroma for these things.
All right, so.
I chroma keyed it, and I should be half invisible with this color right here, so I don't know what happened.
I don't know. All right, so thanks everybody for joining us. I think we've degenerated into complete laughter at this point, and so we'll see you next week, Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, and talking about math. Bye now.
Bye now.